Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Making sure Lexi's ready first. Hello.
Hi. Good to see you. You too.
Giving us a thumbs up.
Got the thumbs up. I'm used to the on-air sign. All right, then let's get going. Chair sees a quorum and calls this meeting, the Whitestown Fire Board, to order at 6:01 p.m. Would you all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Now we'll have a roll call of members.
Catching me off guard here. All right.
I know, I switched it up real bad.
Yeah. Clinton Baum.
Howdy.
Jeff Wishick.
Here.
Jim Baldwin.
Present.
Mike Hancock. Michelle O'Connor.
Absent.
And Casey Copeland.
Yeah, I'm online.
There we go.
Sorry about that. I was trying to roll through and look, and I'm all over the place.
Do we have a vacancy?
Yes, we have a non-voting town vacancy.
All right. Thank you for letting me know. I will work on that. All right, next we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to be made to the agenda at this time? Additions, tabling, anything?
Nothing. Motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Got motions and a second for the discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's adopted. Next, approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes from the previous meeting? Are there any changes, subtractions, or additions that need to be made to the minutes at this time? Hearing none, will of the board on the minutes.
I make a motion we accept the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Motion second for discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's adopted. That then brings us to public requests to speak. Chief, have you received any public requests to speak?
No, sir.
All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations. Having no presentations, we'll move on to citizens and updates. And I do want to say as we get started, Chief, it's great to have you back. We did not have our meeting in October as Chief was deployed to Florida. It seems like so long ago, but it was so recently that they had that situation with, what was the hurricane's name again? Ian. Rolling through and causing damage and destruction. It was great to see our folks and folks from across the country coming out. I think one thing that I saw a lot of were pictures about linemen being sent down to help make sure that the power came back on effectively. So thank you, Chief, to you, and thank you to your team for keeping the ship going in a positive direction while you were helping others. So I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to do it.
And I want to make sure you continue to keep being able to do that. So, any other comments? Seeing none, Chief, go ahead and start us through runs, training, public education, all of our normal updates.
All right. So public education, busy month in October being Fire Prevention Week. This year's theme for that was Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape. Of note, at least the ones that were on the calendar were Traders Point. We went there on 3 different days, different grades, different levels to do fire truck tours and safety talks. Chick-fil-A even had us out to kind of hang out in their parking lot, hand out some fire helmets, and just interact with kids and families. We also took a truck over to the Princesses in the Park with the Parks Department just to kind of hang out there and give truck tours. We had Pub Ed at Primrose School like we do every year as well. We attended a kids workshop at Lowe's where they had us out to give a fire safety talk and also truck tours. And then we also attended the Halloween trick-or-treat on the trail there in Anson Park, I believe it was. We tried to hand out candy at the firehouses. Didn't have a whole lot, but kind of making that transition from going out into the neighborhoods to coming to us, it's just hard to keep up as we grow. Additional things of note for October, we completed our work performance evaluations for the revalidation. So this revalidation process we've been working on has taken us a little bit longer than expected, waiting on some different equipment we've had to do for this new course and the new validation of it. But this month was actually our second time of going through, and they actually videotape the individuals doing it, so we can look at time and effort and the different tasks to make sure it gets back to the committee for kind of a final put together, so they can present it to me for our new validation. So that's been a lot of work over the year there to get that done, but we're getting close to wrapping that up. And then annual hose testing, annual SBA mass fit testing we completed, and we also hosted an honor guard training. We had some individuals from Northern Indiana come down that are real good with the honor guard thing. So we had multiple fire departments attend, including our honor guard, to do some practice and training with that. So good to see that happen. Inspections and prevention, starting to wind down with our annual inspections for the year. You see October, we only had 5 that were completed, bringing the total to 368. 8 re-inspections, 36 new building inspections, 2 C of O's, and 4 plan reviews, 3 sprinkler tests and alarm tests. So all those will continue. I guess the good thing, we're getting more businesses and less re-inspections, not by a whole lot. But I did look at that and kind of note that as a positive, that you know, our businesses and our interactions with them hopefully are working to where they're being very proactive in taking care of their violations and whatnot without dragging that out into re-inspections. So good to see. Or not having violations in the first place, I guess, is a good way to look at it as well.
That's also the goal.
So the training report for the month, 432 hours. You can see the breakdown between the facilities-based training, our company-level training, driver, operator, and hazmat for the month. EMS billing report. I have the wrong, just notice it, the wrong month-to-date revenue on there. It should say for October. I have to watch myself with November meeting report with October statistics. So anyways, October had almost $29,000 you see there in revenue, bringing us to just over 24% of where we were at last year. Increase in runs is a big part of that. When we get to the run report here on the next page, you can see that we're at 1,294 runs for the year. 122 for the month of October, but a few pages back, you'll see that we're 318 runs ahead of where we were at last year at this point in time, which is 33%. I know we didn't have a meeting in October, but in October we were 50%, hovering right around the 49% increase. So it's fluctuating a little bit, but the overall is 30+% increase, which is a sizable increase for our activity. Let's see here.
So, Chief, I notice here when we look at the numbers, every year, as I'm looking at your transport revenue, every year we see from November jumps in December, and most years recently there's been an increase from October to November to December. But we're already so far ahead. Do you think this is going to continue, or are we going to see some course correction here in November that we should be prepared for?
For the transport revenues? I believe it will continue to stay a sizable increase. I mean, we're at 24% now. Looking back at the trending over the years, there was only one year where we went down by a little bit. Everything else has just increased, and it seems to go right along with the amount of runs that we're taking. We put the second ambulance in service, so that is pulling more runs as well for that. So I foresee it continuing, maybe not as drastic as a change as you see here in October.
Right.
You know, level back out a little bit, but still staying ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Other questions for Chief? All right, go ahead.
Just looking at the assist runs there, we had 12 runs. We went to Lebanon, 12 to Zionsville, and 5 to Perry Township area. 6 were within the township, 5 EMS runs, and 1 disregard run. Narcan for the year is 8 different instances on utilizing that. And
does that
then,
compare to last year?
what's that?
How does that Narcan usage compare to last year?
I would say similar, but I'd have to get back with you exactly what it was in 21 at this point in time. I want to say we were in the 4 to 6 margin at this point last year, but I'd have to get back with you on that for sure.
Chief, I think it would be beneficial if we were to structure some sort of similar comparison on Narcan to what we're seeing with the monthly transport revenues. To Jim's point about asking year over year, I know that in previous years you've asked that same question as we get later in the year. So if there was a way to put together some sort of line or dot chart as you had here to show just how Narcan's doing, and then we can compare that over years, I think that would be positive for us to at least see how the data is going. Sorry, Jim.
I've made a note of that, and we will get that added.
Thank you, Chief.
And then, I hope it's in the same order you guys had. You have the EMS report attached to the back there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of came a little bit separate this time, but we have it nonetheless. So you can see the 384 hours of EMS training that we had, with the paramedic hours broke out as well. But in addition to that, we've been keeping them busy on a monthly, weekly training level with audit reviews and our online EMS education, EKG training, different training on carbon monoxide poisoning, kind of getting into that season. So trying to stay ahead on refreshing our people as far as that goes. And then we had a couple of our personnel attend the EMS Pediatric Symposium on pediatric strokes and trauma. So EMS runs a little bit more of a breakdown than the other sheet. You can see 64 patient contacts, 55 transports, which 2 of those were treat no transport, 32 basic life support, 22 advanced life support, and 1 advanced life support 2. And then as we continue to do every month is 100% audit of our previous month's run and working with our personnel to make sure that our reporting and our treatments and protocol following are up to par on that. So unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Questions for Chief? All right. Thank you, Chief. All right. So that brings us to the end of that item on our agenda and moves us through unfinished business, of which we have none, to new business where we discuss department goals and status update. Chief, you want to walk us through?
Yeah, so typically we do this in December, and I will still give you our goals, kind of summary in December. But we haven't met in a minute, and I haven't been able to get the goals out as far as that goes. So I kind of want to give you a status of where we're at this point. Just a couple things to note as we go through without reading line by line. You see the first couple yellow things there. We've completed some studies. We just don't have 100% layout and kind of working to the numbers and figures that we worked on there for the population levels and how that affects our run load and how the development affects that and kind of what to expect as far as trending depending on the type and size of development. Still continuing to look for property for Station 273. You know, of course, all that's based on availability and funding. The same with the training grounds. We have not started the design phase for the relocation of 271. That again is on a funding available basis. That is looking to be, from the recent quote we had, probably around $120,000 to bring us to the point where they would make actually working blueprints. So, still working on a lot of these things through here that are just kind of wrapping up. The construction needs for the station are still wrapping up. We did a warranty walkthrough the other day where we sent them a list of things and sent them pictures. They're slowly working on completing some of those. We still have a couple outstanding items, and we still have not seen any additional invoice that we are holding the funds for. Not sure 100% when that's going to come. I think my question, unless you can advise further, is to kind of let that go until we're 100% complete before I even bring that up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a need at this point. Nothing's done. I mean, even if they were to give me something now, I feel that we wouldn't give it to them anyways. That would be my recommendation until it's complete. So we're wrapping up on that, so we'll see where it's at. But there may be an encumbrance with those funds again to push them into the next year, as we've done before. I hate to keep doing that, but it is out there as a potential O. So I want to make sure we have the funds available when that time comes. Not to get off track of the goals, though. Couple of things with the EMS. One thing we're working on and trying to kind of figure out the fine details of it is what we need to be working on for paramedic retention and acquisition, specifically acquisition. We have 3 personnel that are in class, but it's always it's a topic in the industry as well of being short on able to get paramedics and have the hiring pools. There's some things that we need to be looking at as potential possibilities if we were to need to hire medics. Instead of sending them through school, as we continue to try to send them through school of our existing personnel. You never know when we could. We just want to be prepared. You never know when we could end up needing to replace that or add a position and not be behind the 8 ball. It seems that the whole fire service in general is a real good way to describe it, other than kind of competing and almost pirating that we've kind of started as far as the lateral. We were one of the first ones in the region to do a lot of lateral processes to get that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the potential of people following money and best options and things like that. So I just wanted to bring that up because I wanted to say that we're keeping that on the forefront and trying to put all that together, specifically with paramedics being the more difficult to get a hold of. We're just about wrapped up with all our DEA certifications for the change that has taken place there with the new lock boxes, and I believe we have everything in now. We were working on getting them mounted on the apparatus, and once that's done, I believe Chief Wilkie will be ready to make that call to the State EMS Commission, and the DEA or whoever else has to come out and sort of bless our program so we can be compliant with the new laws on that. Still nothing from our ambulance. We still have no chassis. That was approved back in January. And just to kind of remind and I guess pour salt in my own wound is once we get the chassis, it's still another 450 to 500 days. So struggling.
Mm-hmm.
We're also working with future plans, and I'm sure this will be in the goals for next year of apparatus replacement for the trucks we already have, since we're likely 2 to 3 years out on having a fire truck built at this point.
Right.
And no signs things are getting any better. So
Right, they're not calling you and saying, "Hey, it's going to be sooner. It's going to be longer." Like, so not having a chassis. Were we expecting to have a chassis by now?
yes,
Okay.
I mean nothing was set in stone, but we figured even if it was mid-year, we'd be doing okay. We're continuing to check in, but they don't have any idea either. So
I mean, it is what it is. But you're right. We got a plan
Right.
for it.
any further questions? I know I just kind of hit some of the highlights of some things that we're
If
working
I
on.
may, about the building.
Mhm.
So, what is left? Are there big items left, or a bunch of little punch
Not
list
really
items?
big items. We have some lights that go in our lobby and our admin collaboration area and conference room that were specialty lights that supposedly are in and getting close to being installed, I think.
So are they still in communication with you?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So,
Because I've experienced one time before, and I don't know if this is happening, but towards the end, they're just done.
They were remarkably responsive to our warranty list email that I sent them.
Okay.
Greg, March still kind of worked with us on that, kind of reminded me we're in that point, and, so we walked around and made a list of everything, and we got a response, and even though it's kind of trickling in, so to speak, things are getting done.
Well, that's good. So, yeah, because the experience I had was you have a punch list, you have money owed, and they just stop showing up because it's not worth it for them. Like, they just walk away. So, that's not happening. Yeah.
Not to this point, but I'm
Okay.
kind of surprised.
So, all right.
Further questions for Chief?
Where do we stand on the fire prevention ordinance? Is that
I have got to get
state
that.
now?
I've got to get that sent to legal and council to review to be on the docket. I have it together, so just need to send that out.
And then that goes, once that gets approved, that goes to the state.
So once council kind of gives the nod to, send it on, because right now it does not have to be council approved. But we want council's approval so it doesn't go to the state and then back to council and then council deny it. We want council to be on the upfront of that. So then it gets sent to the state, and if the state approves it, then it comes for official adoption in front of the council.
But we also don't want council to approve first, and then it go to the state, and the state have changes, and then council has to go through the adoption process again.
So it's just a long process.
Mhm.
Other questions for Chief? Well, that brings us up to the end of discussion of department goals. Look forward to hearing in December goals for next year, and other year-end items that we would normally handle in December. I will give the board a heads up. We will be discussing Chief's contract as it ends at the end of this calendar year. So we'll need to make a recommendation to council on Chief's contract. So that will be up for consideration and discussion next month, which means we'll need to have everyone here. All right. Further business to come before the fire board this evening. Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I've got motions there. Second?
Second.
Second. For discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion adopted. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.